There
Work
he
does.
is. Wait, dude, we got the new sponsor, dude. You gotta love this. Meats, baby. Meats. It's
The Butcher
Meatlocker,
Box. I love those guys.
right?
I've been
Did you
getting
say
that.
you do Butcher Box?
I've been getting my Butcher Box every month for like almost a year now. So they just deliver a variety of meats. I just put it in my freezer, and when I'm home, I defrost it and I just throw them on the grill. I've been doing it for almost an entire year.
That's the greatest. It's the greatest. All right, I'm thrilled. It's business. You're in business mode. And first of all, I was really happy about something. We both like Michael Penix, and I want to point to your sway in the football world, in the football universe. Like, we both love Penix, and you went deep inside the tape, and you've been showing, illustrating about Penix as a quarterback, about what he can do, his arm strength, right? And I think you've single-handedly changed the narrative by talking about him resurrecting the Indiana program and playing Ohio State tough when he was there, and then going to Washington, and the receivers believing in him to stay, and turning that team into a national championship team that went to the title game. I think you've helped change the narrative on Penix.
Well, it's hopefully people have just done their own homework. Cause but this what all I'm doing is just spitting out facts. Look, Indiana rose to number 7 in the country. Like, when has Indiana football ever been number 7? Ever? Lee Corso, go through the list of coaches. Tell me when they were last at number 7, if ever. I don't have the stats in front of me. I don't know if it's ever happened.
Right.
They had been at number 7. They beat Michigan. I mean, that was a horrible loss. And they did anything they wanted to do. They took Ohio State to the brink. So he's elevated one program. Then he's had these injuries. All right. Kalen DeBoer, Ryan Grubb, they go to Washington. They coached him at Indiana for a year. They're like, come to Washington. They're 4-12. Jalen Polk, Roma Dunze, they're all leaving. They're all leaving. He's never been to the other side of the country in his life. He's from Dade City, Florida, small town in Florida, wasn't highly recruited. He goes out to Seattle, and immediately he rounds up the group. And he's like, look, don't go. Let's stay. Like, let's go to work. He takes his team. They're 4-12. They go 10-2 the first year. They're 14-0 playing Michigan for the championship the following year. They're 24-3. Kalen DeBoer gets a head job at Alabama. Ryan Grubb becomes the offensive coordinator at Seattle. Like, what in the world else can you I'm not even talking about he's the best pocket quarterback in this draft. And by the way, you still win from the pocket in the NFL. I don't know what else you have to watch. I mean, the arm is the arm. There's nobody that's going to dispute he's got the best arm in this draft. If you put any of these other quarterbacks in his office at Washington, I don't believe they go 14-0. So I don't know. Like, I think the evidence is all there. And now I hear, cuz, that he's probably won't even make it to 16 in Seattle if they were interested. That he's probably going to go somewhere between 8, which is Atlanta, and 13, which is the Raiders. And I believe that. I believe he's atop of the first round pick.
Well, I bring it up because you do your homework. It's about homework, right? It's about assessing talent, watching the film. There's a lot of draft people, but listen, and I respect everybody's opinion, the whole thing, but I don't know who's putting in the time like you watching this film and breaking down players.
Well, here's the thing, cuz I can do 60% of the work. I can do all the breakdowns. I can study the film. I can talk to certain people that I trust. I'm not talking to a lot, but I trust certain people. What I don't get is what I'll never get is the medical on any of these players, okay, and how that comes out, because that influences it for sure. You don't get that chance. Like, we met Michael Penix, and we've talked to him. We've had him on our podcast for ALLCITY. So, and we know his agent. We know the people that are kind of guiding him. So we have a little bit more information than that on Michael that I have on some other players. But honestly, like there's a lot that you don't get. But but you do have to watch the tape, and you got to watch more than just the highlight tapes. You got to watch these guys drop footballs at receiver. You got to watch these left tackles get beat. You got to watch these defensive ends when they're not sacking a quarterback. So look, there's no shortcuts. It takes time. It takes a lot of time to do it. It's a grind, but it's a fun part of the process too because nobody gets it right always, but you should own your mistakes because in the mistakes, you go, okay, what did I miss? How didn't I see that? Like that's if you're Howie at the Eagles, why did you make these mistakes? Let's don't make it again. Let's fix it. What did we overlook? What didn't we catch? I mean, I'm up at the Jets a lot. They made a mistake on Mekhi Becton, and they didn't realize the type of mistake, until it was really too late with the mistake they made with him. But they realized they made a mistake, and so you hope that you learn from that. You hope that you don't make that mistake again, especially if you're picking in the first round and you're counting on these players.
All right, let's start it. This is the final Meatlocker Mock. All right, so let's go through it, and we'll put it down. We'll see how many come to fruition. All right, and again, this is just for fun. So, but I do believe you have insight. So I believe in this Meatlocker Mock. So let's start off. Bears is Caleb, right?
Yes. Yeah.
No changes. Then what happens with Washington?
I think they take Jaden. I think they take Jaden. I think Cliff Kingsbury is the new offensive coordinator. He coached Kyler in Arizona, got him all the way to the playoffs, Pro Bowl player. He'll take advantage of his ability to run the football. So I think he'll put a good offense together in Washington with Jaden right there.
All right, New England. Do they trade it or keep it and draft one of the quarterbacks?
Well, I think that's a new way of doing business in New England. I think Elliott Wolf, Gerard Mayo, I think Robert Kraft. I think it's just a new way of doing business. They're not going to wait around and find their holy grail with the 199th pick. That they're going to go quarterback here, and it's not a great situation. It's not great. It's not a great team around the quarterback. He doesn't have to start right away, but I think they take Drake May right here.
Drake May. Now, so the JJ thing, it's still going to be Drake and not. They don't because JJ's getting so much heat.
Well, no, I mean I think JJ is going to go. I mean we'll get to it. I think Minnesota's going to trade with Arizona, and they're going to take JJ McCarthy. So I think it's going to be quarterbacks for the first time ever. 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay, so Zona trades with Minnie, and JJ goes to the Vikes.
Yeah, they get their quarterback.
So what happens to the Chargers? Do they trade? Do they stay and take Marvin? What happens? You got Joe Alt, like you got a lot. You can do whatever you want. It's Harbs. What happens?
Well, I'm thinking about Marvin right there, but I'm also thinking about Joe Alt. You tell me the last great receiver, the last 6 or 7 years since Harbaugh's been at Michigan. Tell me how they win. They're not. I mean, Nico Collins went there. I mean, they have Roman Wilson this year. It's not. They don't win with their wide receivers. They win with their offensive line and their run game and the style of play. I believe he's going to take Joe Alt right here and play Joe Alt at right tackle.
Wow. Harms goes back to the big uglies. All right. I like it. I like it. So then you got 6 Giants. Now the G-men are sitting there. Do they go quarterback?
I don't think so. I don't think they will. I think they considered moving up for sure. They got jumped by Minnesota, who had more to offer, and so I'm sure that the conversation is definitely being had. The owner came out. John Mara came out and said, if you feel like the quarterback is the best pick at 6, and he's worthy of the pick, then you have my blessing, my green light to go get the quarterback. I think they wanted to get J.J. McCarthy. I just think they got jumped here by Minnesota in my little mock. So I feel like they're going to sit there and take the best receiver available. So I'll give them Marvin Harrison right there at 6. They need a receiver. I think they take Marvin Harrison with that pick.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Marvin Jr. going to New York, like, listen, you got to be happy there. So now you're Tennessee, and it's interesting because you need O-line help, bad in a bad way, but really you have a great board sitting there at 7.
I think Tennessee. Look, I know that they've spent money on a lot of different players, but I believe they'll take Malik Neighbors right there, and they'll give
Wow.
Will Levis. Like I think they're thinking about an offensive tackle. I mean, I think they're weighing it between offensive tackle, which they need for sure, and a Malik Neighbors type. And so we know who they've signed in free agency. We know the money they've spent, but DeAndre Hopkins isn't going to be there forever. I believe that they're going to pair Malik Neighbors here with Will Levis and start building a relationship with a young receiver.
Yeah, I love Neighbors, man. I do. I think if he's almost underrated. It sounds crazy, but you're getting great value at 7. I feel you. How about the Falcons who come in at 8? You know that team very well.
Well, Michael Penix is certainly in play here. He's certainly being considered for sure, and maybe even traded down with somebody to do it. I think there's major consideration there, but I think this team they need a defensive end. And I think Dallas Turner's been mocked there a bunch, but my favorite defensive player in this whole draft is Latu. So I think Latu goes here. He's the best pure pass rusher in this draft.
Wow.
I think that he reminds me a great deal of T.J. Watt coming out of Wisconsin. His size, his bend, kind of a combination of T.J. Watt, Max Crosby, his effort. He's an elite player.
Wow, Latu. Wow.
Yeah, Latu. I'm going Latu right here to Atlanta. I mean, I thought about Dallas Turner like a lot of people, and he's a really good prospect, and he's got good tape from his freshman year. But I think Latu is just a better player right now.
Wow, that's awesome. All right, Chicago. All right, now you're there. That's Chicago. What do you think? You got Caleb. You got Rome's there. Now you added 2 receivers, but a young stud like a Dunzier. I mean, or do you go with a Dallas Turner? Like, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking also offensive tackle there. Olu Fashanu makes a lot of sense to upgrade and just give Caleb as much protection. But I'm with you, cuz I think this is where Rome Dunze goes. I think they were just on a plane together yesterday. Just happened to be flying to Detroit together. And so Rome and Caleb were taking pictures together. I think you've got to give your quarterback, especially a young quarterback, a young star receiver. I believe that Odunze is the best all-around wide receiver in this draft. He's got the best hands of the draft. I think his upside is tremendous. I can see Rome and Caleb striking up instant chemistry. I'm going to go Rome here at 9.
Wow, look at that. All right, Jets. Now you'll be with the Jets Thursday night.
Yeah.
So you'll be analyzing Jets. They'll be picking your brain. Where did the Jets go at 10?
See, they could easily go offensive tackle here. They could go J.C. Latham here for sure. They could go Olu Fashanu. And they might not get on the field right away, but they're going to end up playing. They've got 2 33-year-old tackles. Tyron Smith, the left tackle, has got some strong injury history at 33. Tackle is certainly in consideration, especially Joe Douglas. That's probably the right pick, but I believe they're going to take Brock Bowers here. I believe just watching Brock again this morning, cuz like you just give Aaron Rodgers everything. Like they have Tyler Conklin and Jeremy Ruckert. They've got tight ends. But this guy is an elite route runner. He's awesome after the catch. Like you just give the Jets every chance to score as many points. Just give them another point scorer. Like I know tackle is is the more sensible pick. Aaron's not playing there forever. Whoever they end up, starting at quarterback next year, the year after, give them a young offensive lineman here. But I think this is all about winning now. And Brock Bowers probably is the best choice for here.
So I can't believe you brought him up. So Dan Graziano from ESPN, who you know, right, says he's hearing the Birds, the Eagles, have an eye for Brock Bowers. Okay. And that they could possibly trade up to go look at Bowers.
Well, look, I mean, Joe Douglas obviously has a great, relationship. I wouldn't say great.
Yeah.
But he's got a relationship with Howie and Jeffrey in that building. They would have to come from 22 to 10. I don't know exactly what that would entail. I believe Howie will get there, but I believe Howie is looking to make a splash. I don't have him moving off 22 in this particular mock, but I can certainly see Howie's got pick 50, pick 53. I can certainly see him. I know Dallas Goedert is there, but I can certainly see him making a splash type move. This might be the biggest, if you're suggesting what Graziano said, that would be the biggest move I believe that will happen in this first round. If that would happen, I don't see the Jets. They don't have a second round pick. I don't see the Jets trading back to 22 to take a player. I just don't see him going back that far.
That's fascinating, man. Brock Bowers. I wow. And you could see how he do something like that. He said that a couple of the receivers could be in play for the Eagles, including Brock Bowers. So very interesting stuff. So Arizona is at 11 after the trade with Minnesota. So Zona takes.
Well, they want a wide receiver in the worst way. But they needed. I mean, the best value on the board here is is either Dallas Turner or Jared Verse. So I'll give him Verse right here.
Wow,
like that's the best value.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like you're looking at him, and you go, "Wow, Verse is still there." It's 11, and the way the quarterbacks and the way the receivers, it could play out where you're getting some great value in the teens, beginning at 11. Denver's up next at 12.
Yeah, I'll take Dallas Turner right here. Give him a pass rusher. Let him build the defense. I mean, the quarterback is certainly in play here. But I believe that if Bo Nix drops past Seattle at 16, that's Denver, even without a lot of assets, will trade back into the first round for Bo Nix. So I think they're trusting that he's going to drop, and they're going to keep an eye on it.
Does anybody else look? Because you still, like you said, you have Penix and you have Nix still alive. Raiders, is Penix going to the Raiders? Like, how do you feel it?
That's where he goes. He's going to go to the Raiders. I believe that Michael Penix Jr. is going to go between 8 and 13. Seattle has basically the people inside the building in Seattle are very interested in Michael Penix. His offense coordinator Ryan Grubb is now the offensive coordinator for the Seahawks, but they don't believe he'll be there at 16. And so I believe the Raiders take their quarterback of the future right here. They need a tackle. J.C. Latham is on the board. Like that would certainly make a lot of sense. They lost their right guard and right tackle. But I also believe this is a new regime. If Al Davis is paying attention, and I think Al Davis is, like he wants a mad bomber. And that's what Michael Penix in some ways is. Like they're Kenny Stabler.
Lefty, like Stabler, right?
The
like the snake.
Field. Yes. Like I could see him being Snake too, in some ways.
Snake too. That's awesome. Plus, we love the coach. I love Antonio Pierce. Saints.
So, look, they just fired a good friend of mine, Doug Marrone, an offensive line, hired John Benton. They fired their offensive staff for the most part, but in large part because the offensive line fell apart. Ryan Ramczyk may never play again. Trevor Penning has not worked out. They need a left tackle in the worst way. They know that they need other things too. But I think this is a good spot for Olu Fashanu right here, 14 to the Saints.
Yeah, I could see that. Now, there's some good value with the offensive lineman here.
Yes.
Indy is at 15.
So they have Juju Brents, last year's second round pick, at one corner. They need a corner. So, you could go Quinion here, you could go Terrion Arnold right here. I don't think that the Colts believe that if you ask them right now, um, if you talk to Chris Ballard on this podcast right now, cuz I don't think he thinks that he could have his choice of any corner. Like, I think he thinks a corner will go before they pick at 15. So then it's a question of which one do they value the most. I'll say Quinion Mitchell right here
Okay.
is the first corner off the board.
Wow. So you think Mitchell is the first corner off the board?
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yeah. But it's
Interesting.
close. I mean, Terrion Arnold's a really good player.
Yeah.
Really good player. And he's got a great, I mean, both those corners in Alabama are good. I think Arnold's better than McKinstry. He had a better season than he did.
Kool-Aid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seahawks. You mentioned them. They're on the clock at
I think
16.
they're just going to go send an Uber over to the University of Washington and go get Troy Fontano right here and play him at left guard. They lost their left guard, Damian Lewis, in free agency. They have drafted tackles really well, Big Abe Lucas, Charles Cross. They drafted Olu to be their center last year out of Michigan. I think they really complete the offensive line. They got two really good young backs right here. I think Fontano right here makes a lot of sense.
Now you got Dougie P and the Jaguars after that disappointing end of their season.
Yeah. I think Terrion Arnold makes sense here right here. They lost Darius Williams, who I thought was an elite corner last year. He went back to the Rams. I don't know why they didn't retain him, but I think they need corner help. They lost safeties as well. So I think Terrion Arnold right here goes to Jacksonville.
Then you got Cincinnati. So the Bengals at 18.
So I'll go JC Latham here from Alabama. I know that they went out and got Trent Brown and to go with Zeus, but Trent Brown has been around this league. He's had a ton of injuries. Like, I think this is a good spot for Latham to come and just do their best. I think you could play Latham at guard if you had to for a year to get value for him. But I just think this is a spot where they have to do everything they can to keep Joe Burrow upright, for a full season.
By the way, this portion of the show brought to you by Rite Aid, your neighborhood pharmacy. Visit your local Rite Aid today. Stock up on allergy relief and catch up on immunizations for RSV, shingles, and more. Walk in or schedule a vaccine appointment at riteaid.com. Rams are at 19.
Well, they haven't had a first-round pick since 2016 when they took
Yeah.
Jared Goff number one. So they've been winning a lot of games in a Super Bowl without first-round picks. So it sort of feels like a luxury to them. I would have said if Alatu was there at 19, they wouldn't have even thought twice. They'd sent an Uber or a Lyft over there to get him at UCLA. So I would say, but defensive line is still in play here. So Latu, Turner, and Verse are off the board. They struck gold last year drafting Kobe Turner and Byron Young. But I'll say
Their drafts are ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean, Puka, like how many late round picks? They're amazing, their drafts.
Yeah, Kyron Williams, fifth round pick. Both those players I mentioned, Kobe Turner and Byron Young, they were both third round picks last year. So I will say Chop Robinson. It's a good spot for him right here. Get a young defensive end, kind of start rebuilding that defense without Aaron Donald.
All right. Steelers, do they go receiver here? You got Thomas sitting there.
It's a need. It's certainly a need. But I feel like they lost Mason Cole in free agency. I feel like Omar Khan, Andy Weidel, I think they have drafted Hall of Fame centers. Dermontti Dawson. You just go through the list of them. I think this is where Graham Barton goes. I thought it's a little high for a center.
Yeah.
Especially if maybe Brian Thomas Jr. is still on the board.
Yeah.
But I feel like with Russell there, he's a 5'11" quarterback. Give him the best wall. Isaac Seumalo was gold last year, played every snap in free agency at left guard. Broderick Jones, a really good pick. They could go Amarius Mims here and go right tackle, but I feel like center is a bigger need. And I don't think they can wait to the second round to get him. I think they could fix their offensive line once and for all right now. I think Graham Barton is the most athletic, and so that's where I'm going to go right here.
All right. Up next, Miami at 21. Dolphins on the clock.
Well, they lost Christian Wilkins in free agency. It's a big hole. They've got 2 defensive ends that are on the mend, Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb, from injuries. They could rebuild the offensive line, or they could go Jackson Powers Johnson at center and fix their offensive line and say, you know what, let's just be as good as we possibly can be on one side of the ball, and we'll get to the defense the rest of the draft, but we're going to make sure we put up 28, 30 points a game. I think Jackson Power Johnson comes in here at center. They lost Connor Williams last year. Their offensive line was never the same after he went down. I think Jackson Powers Johnson, I think we get back-to-back centers taken, which might have never happened ever.
Yeah, back-to-back centers at 20 and 21. And now here he is on the clock. Ta-ta-ta-ta. The Birds, Howie. Now, we think there's a possibility they're going to trade up, but if they stay at 22, the way your mock is going, what happens? Where do the Birds go?
Well, they have done probably as much, if not more, work on this cornerback class than any other team in this league. Like, they've had them all in for visits. They've worked them all out, private visits, you name it. They've done a ton of work on corners. Somehow, in this mock, Fuaga is still available. Like, they could go and say, Taliese Fuaga could go in there and start at right guard right now, maybe be as good a lineman as they have on this team. Play him next to Lane Johnson at right guard and make this thing the best offensive line in football. Or you could address the corner position, like Kool-Aid McKinstry makes sense. Cooper DeJean makes sense.
Wiggins.
Like, there's corners there. Nate Wiggins. You could go the third corner or Fuaga. But for this mock, I mean, I can't pass up Fuaga right here. I can't see.
Yeah.
I just can't. I don't know. Like, I took Latham over Fuaga in Cincinnati. I took Fasciano at left tackle. But I think if Fuaga is there, like, they won't even believe it. And I think all the work that they've done on corners, Fuaga goes here to Philadelphia.
Now,
or if Fatano was here, they've studied all these tackles. Stoutland has studied all these tackles. I think Tyler Steen's fine. They could stay there. But I think they just extended Landon Dickerson, Malata, Lane Johnson last year. They got a new center. Like, just make this thing, give Saquon everything they could get to give him the best possible lanes to run, and give Jalen as much time to be able to figure things out where he could regain his form. I think Fuaga right here is the pick.
Wow. Does Rodgers, what do you think about Rodgers? He got cleared yesterday, reinstated. How good is Rodgers in your eyes? You have a corner here. He was very good in Indy.
Young player. He's a young, talented player. He's better than Bradbury. I think they're paying Bradbury $12 million. I don't know how that's going to work out, but he's better than Bradbury. Like, he's probably a starting corner for the Eagles right now. He's been humbled. He's been, suspended. Some of these guys come back and go, okay, they took the game away from me. I'm going to show those rat bastards, what I think. I don't know how much that's going to influence. Like, they still need a corner. I just think in this mock, and it's just a mock, you feel free to mock my mock. They're not going to pass up Fatano or Fuaga in this draft if they're available. So I think Isaiah Rodgers, the fact that he's cleared, you go through the offseason with him, I think that helps kind of ease the pain at that position right now.
I like it. I like Fuaga. I think I would go that route over the corners in that spot. All right, we got to move quick because we're at the end. Zona from Minnesota.
Brian Thomas Jr.
Dallas.
I'll go Tyler Guyton. They need an offensive lineman. They could play him at left tackle, Tyler Smith at left guard, figure out the center position.
a pretty underwhelming offseason for the Cowboys, Baldy.
Not according to the owner. He said, we're all in, we're all in, we're all in, and he loves his roster. Somehow, they had no money in free agency, so they didn't sign anybody. They took a long nap. Eric Hendricks, the only guy they signed. Somehow, they're in salary cap hell and still haven't figured out Dak, Micah, or CD. Like, it's just amazing to me.
Yeah.
Like, those things seem like they never happen to Philadelphia.
No, it never does. It really is. You're right. They have not perfected the art of kicking the can down the road like Howie. Green Bay.
I'll go Marius Mims here. Like,
Yeah,
he's just
that's
too big
good
of a
value.
talent. They lost a starting offensive lineman. They still lost John Runyon in free agency. Marius Mims, Zach Tom is a good player. I think they could get a great player at right tackle.
So here we are at 26. Tampa's on the clock. Bo Nix is still available. Does somebody swoop in?
Well, they could. I think, Tampa, I don't think will trade. I think they're looking at a guy like Darius Robinson. They keep drafting defensive linemen. That's something that Todd Bowles seems to enjoy doing. I thought Kalijah Cansey was really good for him last year. I think Darius Robinson from Missouri here is just a big active defensive tackle, 6'5", 285 pounds, takes up a lot of space, but good movement. Had a good year last year at Missouri. I think Darius Robinson right here makes a lot of sense.
All right, so the 27 zone is back on the clock. Do they trade with someone who goes and gets Nix?
I don't think so because Monty Ossenfort, he's got 6 of the top 90 picks, and so I think this is where I think this is where Murphy goes. Defensive tackle out of Texas right here.
Yeah. That's another one, man. There's some good names out there. Then you got Buffalo.
I'll go receiver here? I'll go Lad McConkey here from Georgia.
Yeah. Who was hurt, and he's got a great sense of space.
He's just a great route runner. Yeah. He changed the direction, route running, hands, like it's all there. They need a receiver.
Yeah. Lions.
I'll go Kool-Aid here. I'll go Kool-Aid McKinstry here.
Kool-Aid. I
think they need a corner.
I like it. The Ravens. So now it's Baltimore.
They could trade out. Baltimore could trade out here. A team wants to come in. In fact, I'll do that. I'll say Denver trades up here with Baltimore and takes Bo Nix.
All right. I like that. I like that a lot. And then the last two, your Super Bowl, obviously the Niners.
I'll go Xavier Worthy here from Texas.
Texas, yeah.
I'll go speed receiver. I don't know what's going to happen to Brandon Ayuk. Just put speed in that offense. Kyle Shanahan values that level of speed in his offense. Always has.
And then finally, the Chiefs.
I'll give him. I thought a lot of positions here, but I'll give him Ricky Pearsall from Florida. We don't know what's going to happen to Rashee Rice in his situation, but just give a solid receiver, tough as can be. Give him a guy that worked the middle of the field, and give Mahomes another option right there in the passing game.
All right, so real quick, just to kind of wrap up the Meatlocker mock, the final mock of the Meatlocker. 6 quarterbacks go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then Penix and Nix. So you got 6 quarterbacks, no linebackers, no running backs, and a lot of good value on the O-line and corner.
Yeah, I would say that's kind of how it has played out in almost everybody's mock. I mean, there's Edgerrin Cooper, linebacker, that's got first-round talent, but I don't think he's going to go. Baltimore's not going to invest at the end of the first round in him. I know they lost Patrick Queen, but they got guys there. They've already played Roquan. So, safety isn't going to go in this draft. Ty Nubin and some of these guys are good players, ball skills, all that kind of stuff. I don't think they're going to go. They're second-round picks. Running backs, there's no running backs going to go in the first round. So I think it's top heavy. We've got, I don't know, 9 or 10 offensive linemen going. We've got 2 centers going. I think Zach Frazier's going to go at the top of the second round from West Virginia at center. So most of the good tackles have been taken up.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. I love it. The draft, all that.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Well, listen, we'll convene on Friday morning for your take.
Let's recap. Let's recap Thursday night.
Yeah.
First thing Friday morning, cuz.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Sure.
You're the greatest, buddy. I love Meatlocker Mock.
We all silly like the mayor.